Something interesting just happened in the US-Nigeria relations, and at the center of it is Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. Yes, the Kwankwaso that we all know. Out of all northern Nigerian Muslim politicians, he was singled out in a proposed US bill titled Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026, which could potentially impose visa bans and asset freezes. Now, here's the big question: why Kwankwaso? Because if there's one northern politician who doesn't fit the profile of a religious extremist, it is Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. Let's rewind to the year 2000. When Sharia was introduced in Kano State, Kwankwaso was the governor. Contrary to what many people believe today, he did not enthusiastically push for Sharia. In fact, he resisted it for months. The Sharia bill in Kano was not even sponsored by him or by the state legislators. It was a private bill. The pressure on him was so intense that he reportedly stopped attending public events for a while. His deputy, Abdullahi Ganduje, had to represent him, and at one point, Ganduje himself was stoned at a public religious event because of public anger directed at the administration. Kwankwaso was politically trapped. Eventually, he declared Sharia, but even then, he made a critical statement during the launch. He said only the state government had the right to punish offenders, that people should not take the law into their hands, and that non-Muslims must not be intimidated. That is not the rhetoric of a fanatic. That is the language of a cautious politician trying to manage religious tension in a state. Afterwards, his implementation of Sharia was widely seen as lukewarm. His uneasy relationship with the clerical establishment became one of the key reasons he lost re-election in 2003. So again, why was he singled out in the US bill? The answer appears political. Kwankwaso was the only nationally prominent Nigerian politician who openly criticized the United States when it designated Nigeria a country of particular concern over religious freedom issues. He argued that the designation oversimplified complex interreligious problems and that cooperation, not confrontation, would be more productive. That criticism did not go unnoticed. One of the sponsors of the bill, Congressman Riley Moore, responded sharply on social media, accusing Kwankwaso of complicity in the death of Christians and pointing to his role during Sharia's adoption in Kano. Kwankwaso did not respond, and here is why politics gets interesting. In today's political climate, especially in Washington, public criticism of the US policy, particularly on religious freedom, can quickly become personalized. Advocacy frameworks, ideological positions, and social media reactions can shape legislative moves. Kwankwaso's inclusion in the bill appears less about his actual record and more about his dissent from a particular US policy position. But here is another crucial point. The bill is still at the introduction stage. It has not passed. It must survive committee scrutiny, pass the House, pass the Senate, survive reconciliation, and receive presidential assent. Historically, most Nigeria-specific standalone bills don't go far beyond introduction. So practically speaking, this may not become law. But politically speaking, however, this could be a gift to Kwankwaso. For years, he has struggled to expand his influence beyond Kano. Being singled out by US lawmakers over religious issues may reposition him in the eyes of some northern Muslim voters, not as a local Kano strongman, but as a figure standing up to external pressure. In politics, perception can be more powerful than policy. This controversy could elevate him symbolically within Hausa-phone Muslim northern politics, perhaps even positioning him as a rallying figure in the way Muhammadu Buhari once was. The irony is that a bill intended to hold him accountable might end up strengthening his political brand. Politics, as always, is full of unintended consequences. Let's take a lesson for Muhammadu Buhari's strategy of gaining northern support and northern vote prior to 2015 election. Buhari was very vocal in his criticism of then President Goodluck Jonathan's administration of how he handled Boko Haram. Muhammadu Buhari described aspects of the 2013 military offensive against Boko Haram as anti-North. The statement gained traction in northern Nigeria because it connected with existing frustrations and perception at the time. The region was already under immense strain. Boko Haram attacks were killing civilians, destroying communities, and crippling economic life. At the same time, the federal government had declared a state of emergency in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa State, leading to heavy military deployment, curfews, mass arrests, and reports of property demolitions. Many ordinary northerners felt trapped between insurgent brutality and what they view as aggressive security operations that sometimes affected innocent civilians. Buhari's remarks tapped into a broader feeling that the North was bearing the brunt of force while other regions had experienced more conciliatory approaches. His comparison between the military crackdown in the Northeast and amnesty program granted to Niger Delta militants resonated deeply in the North. In the Niger Delta, militants had been offered stipends, training, and reintegration. In the Northeast, the response appeared overwhelmingly kinetic. Whether the situations were identical or not, the perception of unequal treatment became politically powerful. Buhari's framing amplified that perception and gave it a recognizable voice. The political climate also mattered. President Goodluck Jonathan then was from the South, and after the death of President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua in 2010, some northern political actors felt the region had lost federal influence. So within that atmosphere, Buhari's statement was interpreted by many supporters not as sympathy for insurgents, but as a defense of northern civilians and as a challenge to what they saw as disproportionate federal force. His long-standing reputation in the North as disciplined and incorruptible meant that his words were filtered through a lens of trust. Supporters saw him as speaking truth to power rather than excusing violence. Media reputation further amplified the phrase anti-North. Headlines simplified the nuance, and once the wording circulated through radio discussions, political gatherings, and community conversations, it became part of the broader narrative of regional grievance. Critics used it to portray him as insensitive or reckless, but among his base, the backlash from southern commentators often reinforced the belief that he was being unfairly attacked for defending the northern interests. By the time the 2015 elections approached, Buhari had consolidated a powerful northern support base. The 2013 controversy did not create that base, but it strengthened his image as someone willing to confront the federal government over policies perceived to the disadvantage of the region. In a politically polarized environment, statements that align with regional sentiment can increase popularity locally even if they generate national criticism. That dynamic helps explain why a remark that drew condemnation in some quarters became in others a symbol of political courage and regional solidarity. Now look at Kwankwaso's situation with the proposed US bill. Kwankwaso criticized the US designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. He argued that the issue was complex and that confrontation could even worsen. In the response, a US congressman publicly accused him of complicity in Christian death and linked him to Sharia policies from decades. His name then appeared in a bill proposing possible sanctions. Again, what might be framed internationally as accountability can be domestically reframed as external interference. In northern political psychology, especially among voters sensitive to issues of sovereignty and regional identity, being singled out by foreign lawmakers can be interpreted not as guilt but as deviance. Just as Buhari's criticism of the federal government in 2013 resonated as defense of the North, Kwankwaso criticism of the US policy may be reframed as standing up to Western pressure. The parallels are not identical, but the political mechanics are the same. Buhari criticized a Southern-led federal government security strategy and gained regional sympathy. Kwankwaso criticized US religious policy framing and may gain sympathy among voters who see foreign policy pressure as heavy-handed or simplistic. In both cases, the controversy shifts from the substance of the accusation to a larger narrative about dignity, fairness, and resistance. The irony is powerful. A statement meant to weaken a politician can elevate him symbolically. External criticism can consolidate internal support, especially in regions where identity politics and historical grievance are already strong. If this dynamic plays out the way Buhari did, the USB could unintentionally expand Kwankwaso's relevance beyond Kano. Instead of being viewed merely as a former governor with local influence, he could be reframed as a northern political figure willing to confront global power. Politics often reward those who appear embattled by powerful opponents. Buhari benefited from that dynamic in 2013 to 2015. Whether Kwankwaso can do the same depends on how effectively he or his supporters shape the narrative. This is Impact Media. Don't forget to comment your thoughts in the comment section. I will see you again in the next video. Thank you for listening.